Hello there everyone. In this video I'm going to introduce lesson 6 of our cse341 course. So high level perspective for this week, we are in week 2 of our second 4-week project. So your project 2 will last from lesson 5 through lesson 8. So at the end of this week you should be about halfway done with that, just to give you an idea. Okay, so this lesson we are talking about error handling and data validation. These are two really important things that will apply to any application you ever make. Error handling is the idea of properly handling situations that are sometimes out of your control. So for example, if I try to connect to a database and the network's down, I'm going to get some type of an error back. I might not necessarily want my entire application to break. I might want to handle that error in a better way. Okay, so error handling, anytime I make a request to a database and it fails, if I try to log in and it says invalid password, okay, all these things are things that we need to handle properly in our applications. And so every app that you ever make, you need error handling in there, okay? Data validation is different. We're talking about them together, but it is very different. Data validation is the process of actually going through data and making sure it is in the correct format before you go to any type of a database. So if I was going to, for example, save a contact in the database from our last project, I'd want to make sure that each of the values in the request body are valid strings, for example, if that's what I was looking for. Or if I was going to let a user upload an image, I might want to make sure that image isn't a gig in size. If I was going to let a user just continually add to this to-do list, maybe I don't want to let them, add more than 100 items, okay? Any of us know how to write a loop, and I can just say, oh, yeah, let's hit this API 1 million times and see what happens. See how much the developer will have to pay when their database blows up in size, And so we have lots of these different ways that we need to validate our data, making sure that we have proper limitations set up before we save our data, and that data is actually in the right format before we save it. And so if we're expecting an integer, we have an integer and no other funky characters in there. Okay, and so those two things that are what we're going to be focusing on this week. This team assignment has a solution here for you with a video that goes through a lot of really good stuff to give you an idea of how to start thinking about both of these processes. How to validate your data, where you can do it, where you should always do it, how to handle errors, where you should always have catches set up, so that you just get into the habit of working with those things. Okay, so that'll be a good team assignment for you to work on. Your personal assignment, you're going to continue work on the project that you started in the last lesson. Today, or for this week, you're going to add put and delete routes to your API. Last week you did get and post. You'll test everything in MongoDB. You will also add validation to all of your routes and error handling to all of your routes. Now, this might sound intense, but if you watch this video, you'll see that once you get it set up for like one type of data or one type of route, like anytime I need to do like a put with an ID or a get with an ID or a delete with an ID, I can use that same type of validation to check the ID on every single one of those, and so it's really not that bad. Once you have a decent feel for how to do this, how to add catches to your API or to like your database calls and things, it's really not that bad. But you'll want to have these on every single one of your routes in your application this week. Just because in the next 2 lessons, you'll have more things that you need to add on as well for your projects. Be sure to update your API documentation to include these new routes and to update the old ones to make sure that if you also have a potential 500 that's being returned, make sure to include that so that anyone looking at those documentations will know, hey, if this request fails, I'm expecting a 500 back, okay? And then you'll go ahead and push up to Heroku and submit these 2 links in iLearn. Okay, so that's a bit of what to expect for this week. It should be a good week. In future weeks, we're going to have a lot of good things to talk about. Lesson 7 will be on OAuth authorization, and lesson 8 will be authentication with JWTs, allowing you to then finish up your project that has security in place and error handling and data validation. So it should be really good. One thing I want to point out, don't forget that you have access to this repository This repository has a collection of code for you guys. And so I can click on these branches here. And if I wanted to find something for lesson 6, it looks like we have 2 different sets of code in here. We have the lesson 6 class start and the lesson 6 class complete. Okay. If I go back to lesson 5, we have the lesson 5 personal solution example, lesson 5 class complete. Okay. And so feel free to use these as much as you want. These chunks of code are for you guys. That lesson 6 class activity. Oh, weird. Yeah, it's there. Huh. Okay. Oh yeah, class complete. Okay, maybe I'm thinking of the team activity. Oh, that is the team activity. I'll have to just rename that. But anyways, those are there for you, so don't forget about those. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Thanks.